I don't hate it.
But you don't like it.
I like it. But
I'm gonna share with you guys what I'm currently taking. As for a little skin update, it snowed last night. We got so much snow. It kind of tastes like a Jell-O shot. I feel like there's such a balance that I'm trying to find with filming because you can only focus on so many things as a human, and sometimes you just need help from supplements. You guys spooked me in the comments with telling me you keep your houses at like 60 to 64. I think that's actually crazy. You have to put the way that you feel over the short-term gratification. Now we have made it. We are now going to pivot to the wellness Q&A. I asked you guys for questions probably like a week ago on my Instagram for wellness focused things because I feel like so much of my content has been house content and travel content, and wellness is such a core part of who I am. I love health. I love wellness. I mean, that's what my entire career is focused around. And so I figured, why not implement some fun questions in here? The first one I want to start with, I feel like it's perfect for today's vlog, is Pilates your main workout or do you incorporate others? How have your workouts evolved over time? It's a good question. My workouts have evolved so much. I grew up as a competitive figure skater. That was my main sport. It's a sport that is basically year-round in Minnesota, and so I spent most of my youth being a figure skater. That was summer, fall, winter, spring. It was all of the time. But with that, I also grew up with a mom who was very focused on health and wellness, and so when figure skating came to a close, I knew that I needed to find another way to move my body. It was honestly kind of just instilled in me that exercising was just part of your life and you had to find a way that you enjoyed it. So after high school, I started lifting weights at just a small gym. I really enjoyed that for quite a while, and that was actually what I did for years. And that evolved into getting more into weightlifting, learning more about form and technique and programming and all of that. So I did weightlifting until about 3 years ago. So from basically 18 until 25, I did a bunch of weightlifting. And I really loved it until I just didn't. And something that I still have a difficult time with is determining if I'm falling out of love with something. Like, when do I stop? You know what I mean? So I went back and forth with weightlifting for a long time, really trying to get myself to go, thinking maybe I just wasn't motivated, maybe I was tired, maybe I needed a new program, a new gym, a new routine. And ultimately I decided to try Pilates just about 3 years ago. Next month will actually be 3 years since I started doing Pilates, and I absolutely loved it. It felt very similar to the way that I used to move my body when I was growing up. It felt very feminine, very challenging, but also very balance focused and flexibility focused, which I really loved. And when I first started Pilates, I also did Orange Theory so that I could get some of that strength and cardio in as well. Then when I moved back to Minnesota, I ended up just doing Pilates. And the reason for that is because I started working on my gut health and my hormone health. And it was actually recommended to me that I did only low impact exercise until my gut and my hormones were healed and healthy. Throughout that time, did try weightlifting every now and again because I know that weightlifting is so critical to long-term health and bone density and just overall health and wellness is having muscle mass. And the thing about the Pilates studios near me is sometimes the teachers just aren't super great, where sometimes I will leave a workout and feel a little bit frustrated of like, I don't really know if I got a workout in, you know? Anyways, I decided recently, actually, probably about a month ago, maybe a little bit more, to get a gym membership at another big box gym. And I started doing the Alive program by Whitney Simmons, and I have been absolutely loving it. So right now I'm going to the gym 3 to 4 days a week, and then Pilates like 1 to 3 days a week. It just depends on the week. But I'm actually considering pausing my Pilates membership because right now in this season of my life, I really like being able to go to the gym whenever I want and just get my workout in when it makes sense for me. Whereas maybe before I was doing YouTube and my career, I had a more rigid routine, and I feel like right now I have to be a little bit more flexible with my routine. Like today I'm filming this vlog, vlog, and then I'm gonna be editing once I finish this Q&A for you guys. And then tomorrow, same thing. I know that it's gonna be a pretty heavy editing day, and so it would be nice to just wake up in the morning and just go get my workout in, as opposed to having to wait for a certain class time. And truthfully, there's only one teacher that I like at my current Pilates studio, and so I don't have a ton of flexibility. So I want to pause it before I cancel it so that I can kind of feel what it feels like to not have Pilates in my life and see if I miss it. I mean, I of course can always pop in for like a class here and there, but that is where I'm at right now with my current workout routine. And I'm kind of doing the same thing that I was doing when I fell out of love with weightlifting. Is I think I'm kind of falling out of love with Pilates and just finding something new that I enjoy. And it feels a little bit uncomfortable and a little bit weird because Pilates has been my, you know, stable workout routine for years now, and it just feels interesting that I'm not looking forward to it as often. I find myself canceling classes, and I find myself on days where I'm going to the gym, I'm like jumping out of bed and just ready to go. So that is my current workout routine. Favorite meal prep recipes? I love this question because I just recently started meal prepping. Probably like 6 months to a year ago, I got really into meal prepping, and it has truly changed my life. I used to meal prep like when I first started weightlifting, and kind of the more bodybuilder style weightlifting, like chicken, rice, kept it very plain and very boring, and have like my meals and Tupperwares ready to go. I really do not like meal prepping in that way. I'm a very picky eater, and so I have to be very intentional with meal prepping and meals that I like. So the breakfast recipe that you guys saw in the beginning of this video, that is something that I would meal prep. I also love meal prepping those egg bites that I've shared on my Instagram all the time. I love my buffalo chicken dip, as we know. We also meal prep up a spaghetti every single week. Jake makes that for his lunches, and then I'll have a couple of the servings as well. And I love having that available because we can just add like a salad on the side or whatever we want to have with it. Sometimes I'll do like carrots on the side, a fruit on the side, just to get a little bit of fiber. I'm also somebody who can eat the same thing for a really long time and not get sick of it until I do get sick of it, and then I'm like, oh no, I need to find a new meal to fixate on. But the other thing that we will do is we will make 4 servings for dinner, because I feel like a lot of things when you make them, it just happens to be 4 servings. Like another thing we love to meal prep is sloppy joes. So we'll make that for dinner one night, and then we'll have 2 leftover servings. So then we can throw that with, if we want it to be really quick, like just some chips and a fruit, or we can throw that with like some roasted potatoes and a salad, just depending on how much time we have. I love having stuff like that just always on hand. So I'd say just to start meal prepping, like just making a little bit extra dinner every night can be really helpful. I also really like prepping my produce and weighing and getting things into portions so that when I am really busy or not in the mood, it's just ready for me. Like the other night when I made those taco bowls, I cut up extra lettuce, I made extra potatoes, and then I had my beef in a container ready for me, so that having that as a leftover was really super quick and easy. I feel like you really just have to play around with meal prep. Like I've tried doing chicken and rice with some sauce, and I just don't like how that tastes heated up. Sometimes I'll even do like snack plates, or I'll do sandwiches. I love to do a sandwich. It's super easy and quick, but I feel like you kind of just have to play around with recipes and see what you like. I really like my meals to be high protein and to keep me full and satisfied, especially if I'm taking it on the go to work. But those are some of my favorite meal preps. What are the basic supplements we should be taking day to day, or is it person to person based? There is the big 5: multivitamin, vitamin D, fish oil, magnesium, probiotic. However, it is very person to person, so there's lots of questions on here, like recommendations for supplements I'm trying to get pregnant, recommendations for supplements I have PCOS, general health supplements, where do I start with supplements. I really would recommend having a provider that you can trust, whether it's a chiropractor, a functional med doctor, a dietitian. Those are the 3 that I would go to. In order, I would go to a dietitian probably first. That is who I get all of my supplement recommendations from, and it's so nice to have them customized because everybody's bodies and needs and diets are so different. And I have had a lot of negative side effects from supplements, like very severe negative side effects, and it's really nice to have a provider that I can reach out to and be like, hey, this is happening. Is it normal? Should I stop taking it? What do I do? So I'm very hesitant when people are just recommending supplements just like willy-nilly to everyone, like, oh, you should definitely be taking this. Truthfully, most of the big 5, most people can take, but there are people that say magnesium may counteract their blood pressure medication, or might make it more effective. So just to err on the side of caution, I always recommend working with a provider. How to fall asleep and stay asleep. Nighttime routine that promotes good sleep. Ooh, that's a good question. I feel like we are very pro sleep in our house. We love sleep, and I feel like we've been working on just getting the best possible sleep that we can. We actually just recently changed our personal sleep routine. I'll kind of just give you a ton of sleep recommendations, and then you can find what works for you in your lifestyle. The first one is going to be about diet. So blood sugar balance right before bed is going to be really, really important. And what I mean by that is making sure you're not spiking your blood sugar or having it too low, because you will wake up in the middle of the night hungry and wanting food, even if you consciously don't feel that way. So before bed, I always try to pair my carbs with a protein or a fat. I also do that throughout my days. That's like a huge thing that I focus on for gut health, is never having a naked carb and always pairing it with a protein or a fat. So for example, if you wanted to have an apple, having like a protein shake with it, a protein bar, a beef stick, a string cheese, peanut butter, something like that, so that it's paired, so that you won't just spike your insulin. That's really, really important right before bed, because that's going to give you longer lasting sleep. Another thing is protein before bed. So if you really struggle to stay asleep, having protein before bed can be really, really helpful. I love to have a protein shake right before bed. I swear to you, I have the best sleep of my entire life, and it will kind of satiate sometimes that sweet tooth. Not always, but if I don't get enough protein throughout the day, I will always try and have a protein shake before bed if I can. The other things that I really like to focus on is red light. So I love red light. If you follow me on Instagram, you know that I am obsessed with red light. Red light is going to help naturally decrease cortisol, which is your stress hormone, and increase melatonin, which is your sleep hormone. And so I pop those on usually around like 7 o'clock, and I just have color changing light bulbs in my lamps, and we change all of the lights to red. It helps you see blue light too, which is really helpful, because they tell you that you shouldn't look at blue light right before bed, but if you don't know what blue light looks like, how are you supposed to have that discipline? It's crazy, because when we started using red lights, our night lights in our bathrooms looked like blue strobe lights. So it can really motivate you to not go on your phone, but we always put those on. The other thing with that is right away in the morning when I wake up, I use a happy light, and that is going to actually spike your cortisol, because what you want is you want your cortisol highest in the morning, your stress hormones, so that you can be productive. If you think way back when, it was so that we could go hunt and gather and survive. And then right before bed, your cortisol should actually be coming down so that you can rest. Unfortunately, for a lot of us, our cortisol is either always high or it's really low in the morning, and then it spikes before bed, which makes it really challenging for us to sleep. So I really like having those two things, the red light and the happy light, to help balance my cortisol naturally. And once you have the light bulbs and the happy light, it really doesn't add any time onto your routine. The cats really love that I'm on the floor right now. It's so cute. I just put the happy light on when I brush my teeth and do my skincare in the morning, so it's like I'm already in the bathroom anyways. And if you live in a cold state or in a state that has winter, happy lights are going to be your best friend, because it is going to give your brain that same feeling of seeing the sun. And there's a lot of research about seeing the sun upon waking and how good it is for your circadian rhythm. So with that too, with your circadian rhythm and sleep, is going to bed and waking up around the same time every single night is really, really critical. And so we try to go to bed every single night between about 9:30 and 10 in our house, and then we try and wake up between 6 and 7 in our house. That is just really helpful, because then your body kind of knows what's expected of it. It starts producing the hormones that it needs to for sleep and wake, and really, really critical. The last thing that I'm going to tell you is screens before bed. Your phone before bed is one of the absolute worst things you can do for your sleep. I used to have TikTok. I actually just recently got rid of TikTok, because TikTok is actually the number one worst thing for my personal sleep. If I go on TikTok before bed, I will not fall asleep as easily, and I will wake up multiple times in the night. And don't get me wrong, TikTok is so fun. I'm so sad that I deleted it, but I just waste so much time on TikTok, and it really, really, really affects my sleep. So I try very, very hard not to go on my phone at least an hour before bed. I used to be so much better about it, and now I've gotten a little bit like, oh, it's fine, I'll check my text, or I'll check this, or I'll check that, but I really need to get back into that. I used to have where it would turn on do not disturb at 9 o'clock so that I wouldn't check it at all, and I need to get back into that habit because going on your phone before bed is going to significantly affect your sleep. So that is my main sleep tips. Also, women should be getting 8 to 10 hours of sleep a night, and if you're someone who thinks like, oh, I don't need that, I'm like perfectly fine having less sleep than that, I would argue your hormones are probably out of whack because you absolutely should be getting 8 to 10 hours. I'm not perfect. I don't always get 8 to 10 hours. That's actually why we recently switched our sleep routine a little bit because we realized we were getting like 7 to 7.5 hours and we wanted to optimize our sleep if we could. But you should be getting a lot of sleep every single night. And it's of course something that you have to slowly add in all of these habits and behaviors, but sleep is the most important thing that you will ever do for your health, for recovery, for brain health, for everything. Like if you are not sleeping enough, you are going to have a very, very difficult time with any other wellness behaviors. So those are my tips on sleep. General health / wellness products you recommend. I don't know where to start. Okay, more than products, because I do feel like we've now been sold like you need a red light device and you need this and you need mouth tape and you need all of these things. More than that, what I would focus on: sleep, 8 to 10 hours a night, hydration, half your body weight in ounces a day, protein, making sure you have a protein with every single meal and snack, and you'll probably hit about enough protein a day. Blood sugar balance, always pairing your carbs with a fat or a protein. Fiber, I think it's 25 to 30 grams a day. Movement that you enjoy. Variety of foods. If you really want to get like really crazy with variety of foods, 30 different plants a week is like optimal for gut health. That is genuinely where I would start. That's it. Focusing on like the core basics, because I think we can all take a little bit of a look in the mirror and be like, ooh, I'm really not doing great with my sleep, which was me because I would scroll on TikTok before bed and I'd wake up in the middle of the night and I would scroll on TikTok. So I got rid of TikTok and now I'm really trying to focus on my sleep. That is where I would start before I would recommend like buying any sort of products. Now, if you really, really wanted to buy some products, you're like, I've got all of those nailed, I want like a little bit of an icing on the top of the cake, I would get the color changing light bulb so that you can do red light. I would get a happy light, and then I would get a red light device of some kind, whether you wanted to do a red light face mask or just an actual red light device. Those would be my 3 that I think are like really, really, really worth your money. I think that's all that I would recommend. Maybe a foam roller too. I do love foam rolling. I feel like it just feels so good. I'm thinking more like diet and things like that, but I would say probably a foam roller. What would you recommend as a good first step in regulating your hormones? I would say similar to everything I just said, like making sure all of those pillars are absolutely nailed. And then I would also consider caffeine intake. With caffeine, one of the most critical things you can do for your gut health is not have caffeine on an empty stomach. Absolutely do not do that. It affects your hunger fullness. It's going to spike your cortisol. It's actually really harmful for your gut and your gut lining. So even just a small snack like a banana or a little granola bar or something before you have caffeine, that's where I would genuinely start. The other thing that I would do if you're feeling like you're having some issues with your hormones is getting some sort of period tracking app or cycle tracking app and start tracking your cycle, because any provider is probably gonna want like 3-ish months of your cycle. So start tracking things so that you realize like, oh, in my luteal phase, I'm noticing that I'm having breakouts, irritability, intense cravings, and I'm also noticing in this phase I'm having hot flashes, difficulty sleeping, all of that. Start tracking all of that so you can really start to determine what is the imbalance that you're having with your hormones. Is it a true hormonal imbalance, or is it something else that could be going on? Your hormones and your gut have such an interconnected relationship that they're both gonna go hand in hand. So kind of all of the things that I was talking about for wellness and general health is what I would focus on for hormones as well. And then I would start with tracking and just seeing what you're noticing. You could even get the ovulation strips and see if you're ovulating every month, making sure that's happening. I think that's truthfully where I would start. And if you are noticing like, oh, I'm not ovulating, 3 months in a row I didn't ovulate, or you're having really severe PMS symptoms, or you're having, hormonal acne, I would recommend meeting with a dietitian or a functional med doctor. I personally have not had any luck going to a medical provider. If you have, that's amazing. Unfortunately, I feel like a lot of times they just tell women like, oh, it's just normal, you're just a girl. I had that when I was originally having a lot of gut health symptoms and hormone health symptoms. They just wanted to switch my birth control. They wanted to tell me it was normal, and it took a lot of me really fighting to get a better answer, and I wish I would have saved myself the time and the headache and honestly the cost of just immediately going to a dietitian or a functional med provider. Best gut health tip as someone who is just starting to look into bettering their gut health. I love this. Let me give you a few. I'm trying to make it different than all the other stuff that I've said. Of course, all of the general health and wellness is going to be super wonderful, but if you really want to dive into gut health, here's what I would say. 25 to 30 grams of fiber a day, 30 different plants a week, taking 20 to 30 minutes to eat your meals, which I know sounds crazy, but meal hygiene is so important. I don't know if you can relate to this, but sometimes I'm like cooking a meal and I'm all frantic, like running around the kitchen, trying to clean it, trying to follow the recipe, trying to get all the timing of everything. And when I sit down to eat, my heart is like racing. I'm like, oh my goodness, I feel like I just ran a marathon. And your body cannot digest your food if you are in fight or flight. If you are in the stressed out part of your nervous system, your sympathetic nervous system, you have to be in parasympathetic. You have to be in rest, digest, arousal, nervous system to digest your food. So you can take a couple of deep breaths, making sure you're centered, making sure you're focused on eating. Digestion starts in your mouth. So if you are not chewing your food, you are not gonna have a happy, healthy gut. A few things. Should take you 20 to 30 minutes to eat your meal. You should be calm and relaxed, not distracted. No TikTok, no YouTube, nothing. I am not perfect at this. I love to watch a show and eat. You should chew your food to applesauce consistency. That is the hardest thing for me, and I truthfully do not do that. But when I did do that, my gut was so much happier because then your stomach can focus on your stomach's job as opposed to your mouth's job and chewing it up. So that is what I would start with. What else would I start with? Blood sugar balance for sure. Sleep. And I would really pay attention to your digestion. That would be something that you could start to track. Are you having a bowel movement every single day, and are you fully emptying? Because if you aren't, that's like a pretty big sign that something is going on with your gut. Also, how do you feel after you eat a meal? Do you feel satiated? Do you feel satisfied? Does your stomach hurt? What are you noticing? I think that would be where I would start. Okay, here is the last one that I'm going to answer, because I've gotten a couple that are similar to this one, but it was, could you possibly talk about how you stay so motivated during the winters when depression is so high? I would love to hear how you get yourself to keep going, stay off the couch, and live the life that you do. First things first, I am not perfect. I do not always have super high energy. I do not always like go, productive queen, getting things done, checking everything off of my to-do. I am someone that has a lot on my plate, and I will say I'm pretty good at managing all of it, but that is because I've been working on a health and wellness routine for a very long time, and I have a very supportive partner who is a team player. If I'm having a really busy week, Jake is very happy to take over all of the chores and all of the household things so that I can focus on YouTube and my career and all of the other things on my plate. We do really make a good team, so I know that that is super helpful, but I am someone who relaxes all of the time. I love to relax. I love to watch YouTube. I love to watch podcasts. I love to watch shows. I love laying in my bed and eating snacks and doing all of that stuff. But I also set myself up in a way where I am able to get the things done that I want to get done. So first things first, if you live somewhere that has winter or has a lot of darkness, I would recommend getting your vitamin D levels checked. If you feel like, gosh, I'm just not able to do the things that I need to do, that's where I would start, especially this time of year, because seasonal depression gets to be very severe for a lot of people. So I would get vitamin D levels checked. You can get that done at your medical provider. And I would get on a vitamin D if you are deficient. If you're living in Minnesota, odds are you're probably deficient, but it's never a bad idea to have those levels checked. Getting on vitamin D for me, once I moved back to Minnesota, felt like I was on antidepressants. I felt so much better. I had way more energy. My hormones were so much more balanced and regular. It was kind of life-changing. I would also meet with a provider to see if the big 5 supplements would be a good thing for you, because that can also help with energy and mood. For example, magnesium is needed by every single cell in the human body, and if you are deficient, every single cell in your entire body is struggling to do the job that it needs to do. I would start with those 2 things. I would really focus on getting good quality sleep. I would minimize scrolling. I know, Nobody wants to hear it, but I find that when I'm lacking energy or motivation, sitting and scrolling on my phone is not helpful for me. So I would minimize scrolling, especially TikTok. TikTok is very addictive and triggers a lot of feelings of anxiety and stress and comparison and all of the things. And then all the things I've already said. Blood sugar balance, hydration, protein, happy light, red light, all of that is going to be life-changing, and I'm not kidding when I say that. I would also really encourage you to find a movement that feels good to you, whether it's walking or yoga or Pilates or running or weightlifting, whatever it is, and finding an amount that works for your routine. I think sometimes we feel this thing of, oh, I'm supposed to work out this many days a week, but that just isn't true. Everybody's bodies has different needs depending on your job. So when I'm really, really busy in the clinic, 4 days a week of working out is more than enough for me because my job is very physical. If I have a slower week in the clinic, maybe I'm doing 5 to 6 workouts a week or doing a little bit more cardio to get my heart rate up just a little bit. I also feel like too, I was talking to one of my friends about this actually. Take things off of your plate that don't need to be on your plate and ask for help where you can. So for example, if I'm feeling really overwhelmed, I will ask Jake if he can do some of the chores around the house that maybe I just don't have the energy or capacity to do. I will meal prep my recipes for that week just to make it that much easier when I know I'm not going to have the motivation after work to make a meal, or even today it was so hard for me to make my lunch. I just had to do it. It was already prepped for me, so it was just easier for me to just make the prepped meal and heat it up than it would be to like go grab food somewhere else. Setting yourself up when you do have that little burst of motivation, and make it fun. Listen to an audiobook or a podcast while you're meal prepping. Call one of your friends, voice memo with one of your friends. Make it enjoyable for yourself, and also just give yourself grace. This time of year is really hard. A lot of people struggle with motivation and energy levels because it's dark, it's cold, it's sad. We're after the holidays. There's really not a ton to look forward to in January, but just give yourself grace. I always look forward to winter in a way because I feel like life slows down a little bit and I'm able to hibernate. I'm able to watch shows. I'm able to lay in bed more. There's not as much social interaction happening, and that can be a really wonderful time because sometimes in the summer it can feel a little bit overwhelming, like always having things to do. So as best as you can, try your very best to enjoy it. Ask for help where you need it, and you'll get through it. Spring will come and we will not always be in this deep, dark winter. That is all the questions that I'm going to answer for today. I hope you guys enjoyed this little wellness segment. If you have more questions, definitely let me know because I love talking all things health and wellness. I kind of forgot how much I loved talking about it until I sat down to do this with you guys. This was so fun. We can definitely do this again.